Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shasivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vighnopashantaye Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnur Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So in Lalita Sahasranamam, for the last, I think sometime we've been pretty close to like Sumeru Madhya Sringastha and Chintamani Gruham. We are enjoying the place where mother is located. So wanted to do something today. I hope everybody enjoys it. I'm just looking for the shloka. So we are doing shloka 22. Sumeru Shringa Madhyastha, Shriman Nagaranayika, Chintamani Grihantastha, Pancha Brahmasanasthita. We've spoken about all of those. I wanted to add just another flavor to help you understand or visualize what these are. Like, understand, I think you do very well. So there are what we call as the 44 characteristics or 44 descriptions of this Sriman Nagaram and the Chintamani Griham that are given. So wanted to just walk you through it. Don't try to write them down. Just simply close your eyes and visualize. And I will do both the Sanskrit and the English names if possible or whenever possible. So get a nice visualization of it. And after that, I'll share the details. If you are interested, I'll put it on the in our Google Drive. And note that while we talk about these to be on in Sriman Nagaram, we also pray to these within the triangles of the Sri Chakram as well. So I won't go into which triangle for what, but I'll just give you the visualization of Sriman Nagaram. So visualize an ocean of nectar. Amritambhonidhi is what we call it. Amrita Ambaha. Ocean of nectar, in which there is an island of jewels, Ratna Dvipam. And on the Ratna Dvipam, there is a great garden of trees. There is a great garden of a lot of trees, Nana Vriksha Mahodhyanam is there, and in which there is a grove of wish-fulfilling trees or Kalpa Vrikshas. So there is a Kalpa Vriksha Vatika. And then there is a Sanatana Vriksha Vatika, and this is a grove for obtaining children. And then there is a grove of sandalwood trees, Harichandana Vatika. There is a grove of hibiscus trees, Mandara Vatika. There is a grove of Parijata trees, or we know what is Parijata. So there is a Parijata Vatika. And then Kadamba Vatika. So there are so many different kinds of flowering trees, including the flower like Kadamba. Then once you pass these various groves, you see a Pushparaga Ratna Prakara. So there is an enclosure which is made up of the Pushparaga, or Pushyaraga is also the other term. These are those precious stones. So Pushyaraga Ratna enclosure. And you pass that, there is a Padmaraga Ratna Prakara, which is a red jewel stone enclosure. And then there is Gomedha Ratna Prakara, which is another green, like the green diamond enclosure. Vajra Ratna Prakara, white diamond enclosure. Vaidhurya Ratna Prakara, yellow diamond enclosures. Indra Neela Ratna Prakara, the blue jewel enclosure. Mukta Ratna Prakara, a pearl enclosure. Marakata Ratna Prakara, emerald enclosure. Vidruma Ratna Prakara, coral enclosure. Manakya Mantapa, there is an altar of rubies. And Sahasra Stampha Mantapa, there is 1,000-pillared hall. And Amrita Vapika, there is a well of nectar. Ananda Vapika, a well of happiness, Vimarsha Vapika, a well of mantras, and there is a hall of glowing light of the morning sun, Bala Tapodgara, and there is a hall of soft moonlight, Chandrikodgara, and there is a Mahashringara Parigha, there is a fanning enclosure of beauty. Then Mahapadmatavi, a great forest of beautiful large lotuses. Chintamanimaya Griha, the house of Chintamanis, and we have seen what Chintamanis are and Chintamani mantras, and we went into Amnayas, recollect all of those. Then in there, Purvamnayamaya Purvadvara. So there is Rigveda is the eastern entrance, Yajurveda is the southern entrance, Samaveda is the western entrance, Atharva Veda is the northern entrance, and there is a Ratna Pradeepa Valayam, the circular enclosure of jewels, in which there is a Manimaya Mahasimhasanam, a jeweled throne of Manimayas, like fully bejeweled. For that Simhasanam, Brahma is the first foot of the throne. Brahmamayika Mancha Pada, we have seen those as well. And the second foot of that throne is Vishnu. The third foot of that throne is Rudra. The fourth foot is Ishvara. And the plank that forms the Simhasanam, that is Sadashiva, is lying flat as the seat of the throne, on which there is a Hamsatulika Talpam, feather bed of swan down. Hamsatulika Mahopadhanam, a great pillow of swan down. And Kausumbhastaranam, a red colored satin bedspread that's spread on it. A Mahavitanakam, a great fan that is fanning for the mother. Mahamaya Yavanika, a wheel of Mahamaya is covering her throne. So those are the 44 descriptions that are given for the Chinta. So for the whole thing, like Sumeru Shringa Madhyastha, from the Sriman Nagaram, what it looks like, and Chintamani Gruham, and then the Pancha Brahma Asanam.
Awesome.
Right?
Oh, nice. Yeah. It's nice to visualize that. So good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'll share that if there is interest. I'll just share
Please,
those.
Guruji, please share it. Yeah.
And we have spoken about previously about these, like, the Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Ishvara, Sadashiva as the Simhasanam. So it is the substratum of everything that exists, as the mother exists in a manifested form as the energy matter. And then we are seeing, like, the last description is Mahamaya Yavanika. Like, there is a veil of Mahamaya for us to understand the mother in, or the energy matter or the consciousness in its real reality, in its original form, because there is this Maya, the veil of Maya, that is differentiating us from that. So it is important to understand that as well. So from these Pancha Brahmas, so we already spoke about in Sri Vidya, we talked about Srishti, Sthiti, Samhara. Tirodhana and Anugraha are the next two levels that we talk about. So from these Pancha Brahmas have emerged the Pancha Bhutas, the Pancha Tanmatras. The Tanmatras are the senses themselves, not the sense organs. The sense organs are Jnanendriyas, and the senses, like, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, the smell, the taste, and all of that, those are Tanmatras. So from Pancha Brahmas came the Pancha Bhutas, the Tanmatras, from their Jnanendriyas, from their Karmendriyas, and from there the Pancha Pranas. And all of this constitutes the universe. And my notes say she is the manifested form that is sitting on the Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, Tirodhana, Anugraha aspects of that one Lord, the Parabrahman or the Parameshwara. Okay. Now we move to the next Nama, and we'll chant this sloka first, and then we'll go into the Namas. In this one, we have Mahapadmatavi Samstha is one nama. Kadamba Vanavasini is the second nama. Sudhasagara Madhyastha is one nama. Kamakshi is one nama. Kamadayini is the other nama. So in the first line, we are looking at 2. In the second line, we are looking at 3 namas. Okay. So Mahapadmatavi Samstha. So we said Chintamani Griham, right? In Lalita Sahasranamam, all 44 descriptions are not given. So there are couple are given, like in the examples, like only just a sample is given here. So Mahapadmatavi, we have seen that the massive forest of lotuses with long stalks, and these are 1,000-petal lotuses with buzzing bees, is how it is described. So this is the Udhyana, the little garden around the Chintamani Griham. And the description of Mahapadmatavi, as everybody can imagine, is related to Sahasrara Chakra. So who can see this? Maya Malinya Rahita, somebody who is devoid of the Maya Malinyams, Maya as well as Malinyam, which is the purity and illusions, who is beyond these things, those people can reach the Sahasrara Chakra. So Mahapadmatavi Samstha. The next nama is Kadamba Vanavasini. So there are various forms of the mother, and there are various names that are going given, and we will be seeing a lot of those names that are going to come. So Ashwarudha, Sampatkari, Samarudha, like all of those names. Among mother's different forms, there are some forms that are extremely important and more popular, is what I would say. So Kadamba Vanavasini, this is related to Raja Shyamala or Shyama Matangi. So I don't know if everybody, I might have a Matangi picture, sorry. One sec. Oops. Can everybody see that? At it?
Yes.
Yeah, the names are Matangi or Rajashyamala or Shyama is the name for the mother. And there is significance to this. And I mentioned that there are 4 Navaratris throughout the year that we celebrate. One Navaratri is very popular that comes in October. And Rajashyamala Navaratris happen in Magha Masam. So the description is in this like Kadamba Vanavasini, it is very related to Shama Matangi. In Sri Chakra, this represents the Ashtadalam. So I'll just try to move. These petals, there are 16 of these petals, the orange ones. When you go into yellow, these are 8 petals. So Kadamba Vanam is the description of the Ashtadalam. So let me see how much of the Sukshma Bhumikas we can go into. So everybody probably knows that while we talk about the more popular ones or the main ones that we talk about, like number of chakras in the body are 7 or 6 chakras, and then there is Sahasrara Chakra. There's some background noise. So there are 6 chakras and then Sahasrara Chakra. There are in various samhitas. In Shiva Samhita, there is a description of 140 chakras, and there are some others that say 108. Ultimately, chakras are nothing but junctions of all the nadis. According to our scriptures, there are 72 subtle nadis, just like arteries and veins that carry the blood flow, and the nerves that carry the sensations. There are nadis that carry the life force, the pranas, throughout the body. So the chakras are nothing but junctions where all the nadis come together and then they get distributed. So the main chakras are Mooladhara chakra in the base of the spine, and then Swadhisthana near the genitals, Manipuraka near in the navel or the area of the navel, and Anahata in the middle of the heart, then Vishuddhi throat, and Ajna chakra between the eyebrows, and Sahasrara chakra in the near the Brahmarandra. And I shouldn't say Brahmarandra because there is another Brahmarandra chakra. So, but on top of the head, let's put it that way. So the secondary chakras are related to this nama. So once, I think there's the activation and the practices and whatnot. So this one, this nama is utilized for some of those practices. Kam damayati iti kadambaha. So niyantranam karoti. Something that actually helps us control or regulate our senses and regulate our mind. For the Indriya Nigraham and Mano Nigraham for Shama and Dama, this nama is utilized. So if you're on that path, you can just simply use the nama as Mahapadmatavi Samsthayai Namaha. So that would be the nama. And the other one, it has the boon to attract influence from distant dreams and materialize them. So this is also used for Abhishta Siddhi. So the same nama, the way you do the sankalpa, like what is that you want to manifest. Based on that, you can use this even for any material wishes that you may have. So it is Mahapadmatavi Samsthayai Namaha. Sorry, Kadamba Vasinyai Namaha. Sorry, my mistake. Om Kadamba Vasinyai Namaha. And the next nama is Sudha Sagara Madhyastha. So Amrita Sagaram. So, and what is to do with all of these sagaras, right? Like, so when we talk about Mahavishnu, we are talking about the Milky Ocean, and now with the mother, we are saying it is the ocean of honey or Amritam. Because it represents Anantam and Aparam, the depth and the width and all of that. It is immense and it is not measurable. And thinking about from a cosmic perspective, there is no end to either. You can go from this end to that end, and from a space-time continuum, it's also the time cannot be taken as from the beginning of the time. It doesn't exist that way, because you may go 13 billion years of the existence of this particular manifestation of the universe, but there have been previous manifestations. So there is no beginning or end to time, and there is no beginning or end to space, and there is no beginning or end to the universe, the Paramatman. So representing Anantam and Aparam. So that's why the Sagaram is used as a representation of it. So my note says Paramatma is Ananda Swarupa. The bliss we get by reveling in him or her gives Shashvata Anandam, that is also Anantam and Aparam. And obviously the Siddhi Sthiti is called as a Satchidananda. And why Sudha Sagaram? Sudha is the definition, the Vyutpatti that is given for this is Sushtu Dharayate iti Sudha. The one that is bearing all the Srishti, that is called as a Sudha. So therefore the representation of Sudha Sagaram is nothing but the mother is the bearer of all the Srishti that exists. The next nama is an extremely beautiful nama, just like all the other namas. Kamakshi. So now going back to the scenario, all of this is being described. We know that for Bandasura Vadha, all the gods were doing their homas and there was a Chidagni, and from the Chidagni manifested the Devi that we were describing, the Devi, her physical form. And after she married Shiva, they both were sitting on the throne in the middle of this Chintamani Griham in the Shumeru Shunga, in the middle peak of the Shumeru Shungam. At this point, Brahmaji is thinking of giving a name to the mother, the Maharagni, that is sitting on this throne along with Shiva, or Kameshwara, to be very specific. So we have seen a previous nama, Shiva, which is her real name. But now Brahmaji is looking for a new name after she is encrowned as the Maharagni. So he is asking the Devas, okay, what are your wishes? Maybe I can come up with a name if you tell me your wishes. And they say, we don't have any wishes. And he's like, oh, really? Like, you called her because you had the Bandhasura Vada. And they're like, oh, yeah, I remember now. And I completely forgot, because as soon as she saw us, her Vikshanam itself made us forget all the desires, and all the desires were fulfilled. We feel complete or content. Therefore, we felt like we did not have any wish. So there is a wish for the Loka Kalyana. So then Brahmaji calls her Kamakshi, the one who bestows all desires by merely looking at the devotees. Or the other way, when devotees look at her, especially her eyes, all the wishes get fulfilled, and there is contentment and pleasant satisfaction that ensues all of us. And there is a reason for Kamakshi. There is a couple other meanings that we will go into. Mother has 3 eyes, and from the first eye came the Brahma Saraswati, from the second eye Vishnu Lakshmi, from the third eye Maheshwara Uma, which is a Srishti Sthiti Samhara combination, right? So in the words Kamakshi, there are 3 syllables, Ik or Ka, A and Ma. They say Ka is the Brahmavachi, A is the Vishnuvachi, and Ma is the Rudravachi, representing all 6, like Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, and their Shaktis combined together is Kamakshi. They all came from her eyes.
I'm sorry, what was that for Vishnu, Guruji?
Sorry, what was that, Jayasriji? Sorry, I missed your question.
Kamakshi, we talked about the 3 people, right? So what was it about Vishnu? Which letter was that?
Yeah. Ka plus A plus Ma. Ka Ma, right? Yeah. So Srishti, Sthiti, Laya all came from her eyes. Therefore, she's called Kamakshi. And the other one, Kama, actually is the sankalpa of Bhagavan to create the Srishti, right? Like we talked about Ichcha, Jnana, Kriya, Shaktis. So the sankalpam itself is the desire itself to create the universe, and that desire manifested as the universe through her eyes, as the forms of the Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, and their Shaktis. That's why she is Kamakshi. So there are multiple meanings, but this Kamakshi also provides or bestows all the desires for us. The next nama is just an emphatic second time that's saying Kamadayini, defining the previous nama, one who bestows all the desires. The next nama, so let's chant the shloka. Devarshi Gana Sanghata sorry, my mistake, it is not Mahaprana, it's Alpa Prana. Devarshi Gana Sanghata Stuyamanatma Vaibhava. So there are 2 Mahapranas, Gana Sangha and the last Vaibha. The second line is Bhandasura Vadhodyukta Shakti Sena Samanvita. So just want to make sure I see if the breakdown is what I think it is. 1 second. Shri Kamadayini. Sanghata. The first one is Devarshi Gana Sanghata Stuyamanat. Devarshi Gana Sanghata is 1 nama. Oh, sorry. Devarshi Gana Sanghata Stuyamanatma Vaibhava. That is 1 nama. And then the next one is Bhandasura Vadhodyukta Shakti Sena Samanvita. So 1 nama per each line. Who would like to chant this shloka with me?
I can chant, Shriji.
Awesome. So we'll do the lines first and then the full shloka. देवर्षिगणसङ्घातस्तूयमानात्मवैभवा
देवर्षिगणसङ्घातस्तूयमानात्मवैभवा
भण्डासुरवधोद्युक्तशक्तिसेना समन्विता.
भण्डासुरवधोद्युक्तशक्तिसेना समन्विता
Awesome. We'll chant the full shloka once. देवर्षिगणसङ्घातस्तूयमानात्मवैभवा भण्डासुरवधोद्युक्तशक्तिसेना समन्विता.
देवर्षिगणसङ्घातस्तूयमानात्मवैभवा भण्डासुरवधोद्युक्तशक्तिसेना समन्विता.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, Deva Rishi Gana Sanghata Stuya Man Atma Vaibhava. So, that's the kind of breakdown. So, Devas and Rishis are the description of Rishi is somebody who has Atindriya Shakti, who can see beyond senses. So, they are Rishis, and Devas, as we know, of Daivi Sampat. So Devas and Rishis, they are ganas together, an ensemble of all of them, samuham. They are praising the mother to Atma Vaibhava. So, as if they are praising the Vaibhavam of the mother to their fullest satisfaction. So the other meaning of this is somebody with Daivi Sampat or somebody with Rishyatvam are the only ones that can find the mother and gain the Brahmajnanam, is what it is trying to say. There is a long description of this, which I'm going to read because I felt it is important. There are quite a few quotations that come in between, so bear with me. Her power is praised by the assemblies of multitudes of devas and rishis. And what is Vaibhava, power? This may mean the all-pervading quality of Devi, Sanghata, assemblies, separate assemblies in different ways, or Sanghata, literally like much destruction, is one of the names of the hell, to be saved from this hell. That's why they are doing the praise. Or some means entirely, Ghata means slaying, that is Bhandasura. In Brahmanda Puranam, it is said that by the Devas who were troubled by Bhandasura, O Devi, Mother of the Universe, victory to thee. After praising Devi in a hymn and being asked by her to choose a boon, the Devas say, if, O beneficial one, thou art pleased, let us who are troubled by the great Daityas and whose life is therefore difficult to live, take refuge in thee. In another place, once the divine sage Narada approached the Supreme Shakti and bowed down with deep reverence, said, this Bhandasura, O Devi, afflicts the three worlds. By you alone and by no other deity can he be conquered. And we will see who Bhandasura is from a more esoteric terms. For now, I'll just read this and we will get to that. Bhandasura Vadodyukta is the Nama where we will describe Bhandasura. The real meaning of the text is as follows. Devas, Brahma, etc., Rishis, Vasishta, etc., and Devarshis like Narada, etc., Gana, Aditya, etc. The Agni Purana says the Gana Devatas are the Adityas, Vishwavasu, and we know the Gana Devatas, so I'm not going to go into that. By her greatness is praised by millions of Dikpalakas, suns, moons, and Vasus, etc. Again, if we take to explaining the deeper meaning, Pararupam is what we call it, the esoteric meanings of this name, the result is described in Shaiva scriptures that Atman alone is praised by Devas, etc. The Chaitanya who enters into everything, Akhilanugatam, who is all experience, Akhila Parichita, and that who is that feeling which is the seat of all love, the Satchidanandam. The Agni Purana says, the first Sutra, Atman is his consciousness, the Chaitanyam. And the second Sutra says, the knowledge is bondage, or the worldly knowledge is bondage. Hence, what is praised or experienced by devas and others is the Atman. The universal form of Lalita is declared to be the very self. As she is inseparable from the self, her Vaibhava is all-pervading, possessed with infinite powers, etc. So connected to what we were studying yesterday in Bhagavad Gita and this morning in Vishnu Sahasranamam. So devas and rishis praise Atma Vaibhavam and not the material worldly knowledge. So they have less praise for everything else except the Chaitanyam and the Atman itself. I hope that made sense. We'll move to the next nama, Bhandasura Vadodyukta.
Sridevi, can you
Sorry.
please repeat the last sentence you said?
Sure.
The praise.
Yeah. The universal form of Lalita is declared to be the very self. As she is inseparable from the self, her Vaibhava is all-pervading, possessed with infinite powers.
Shriji, the line reads Devarshi, not Devarshi, right?
No,
There
it
is
is Dev. To what I know, Devar Shrigana Sanghata, it's not Devarshi. To what I know.
Oh, okay.
Devar
Because
Shigana.
Devarshi could still be the rishis that advises the devas, right?
Correct. So that's why the description is Devas, Rishis, and Devarshis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So here we were describing, right? Like, Devas like Brahma, etc. Rishis like Vashishta, etc. And Devarshis like Narada, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the next one also we will read, but here the next one is Bhandasura Vadodhyukta Shakti Sena Samanvita. So we'll spend some time on this one. She is endowed with an army of Shaktis for the sake of slaying Bhandasura. And all her Shaktis, and we say 64 crores of Shaktis, and these Shaktis, again, there is connection to what our Shaktis are, because the macrocosmic Shakti is not going to be different from the microcosmic Shakti, but in a very microcosmic way, right? So how do we enliven these Shaktis is a whole, Vidya. So I'll read this one. Manifested for the sake of fulfilling the actions of the Devas, the activity of her Stula form was described. He now continues that description. The fighting between Deva and Bhandasura is fully described in the Lalitopakhyanam. And if you remember from our first Lalita Sahasranam class, we started from Lalitopakhyanam, which is the whole description of the Homa and etc. Concerning the burning of Manmadha, it is said in the same book, Ganesha, the skillful worker, seeing the ashes of the god of love, made from them a beautifully formed man. Brahma, on seeing this action, said, well done, Bhanda, Bhanda. Hence, in the world, he is called Bhanda. The fierce quality, Asuratva, is explained in the same Purana as the powerful Bhanda sprang from the fire of Rudra's anger. His nature is terrible, Raudra. Hence, he is the terrible one, Danava. Or endowed with Samavrita, entirely identified with Gaudapada Sutra. So I won't go into who quoted what. I'll just read the quotations. For the sake of destroying Bhandasura, she, though one, became many. So as the manifested mother, now we will start seeing like the Bala Parameshwari and all the different forms of the mother who become her ganas, her shaktis that go to do the fight. And each of these danavas, they live within us as our own egos and our arishad vargas, like our kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsaryas. So how in practical steps, what we practice, how her shaktis eradicate over a period of time. It doesn't happen overnight, especially for somebody like me. Over a period of time, getting rid of the Arishad Vargas, so we become more of the Maya Malinya Rahitam. So that's the whole concept of Vidya. Or Bhanda literally means shameless. It means that the embodied soul endowed with life. Though he is existence, consciousness, bliss, this embodied soul, Bhandima, is afflicted by ignorance, impermanency, pain, etc. And the description of Asura. Asu means life, Ra means to take away. He who takes away life. Life means the real nature, the imprisonment of Bhanda as an expression in the sutra. So the worldly knowledge is imprisonment. The knowledge means, according to the second truth, not recognizing the reality in the self and recognizing the reality in what is not self. The Atma Anatma Vivek. This word Bhanda is also well known by the word Anavamalam. This is the other, like, when we do Achamanam, so generally we do with like the Keshava Namas. And there is why we take 3 sips and not a single sip, because one is for the Sukshma Sharira the Sthula Sharira cleansing, the Sukshma Sharira cleansing, the causal body cleansing. And we also take the 4th one in our Vidya. But with each of these cleansing, there is a what we call as the Mala Visarjanam. So Arnava Malam is a kind of Mala. So I'll talk about it at a later time. So what they're saying is the word Bhanda is also well known by the word Arnava Mala. So Bhandasura can be visualized as a Rakshasa, a fearful, terrible Rakshasa, or understand conceptually as somebody living in us as our own vices. The effort is called Udyama, this whole effort of this fight, the war that's going to happen, is called Bhairava. When united with Shakti Chakra, the involution of the universe comes. When Shakti is united, the creation of the body comes to exist. When the Bhuta is united, the separation of the Bhutas, the compositions, etc. of the universe come. Anyway, so this is going into a lot of detail, so I'll probably stop here. And if anybody is interested, just send me a note so I can send you some details about it. But the whole point of the war against our own Arishad Vargas, this has happened in the Purana as a Bhandasura. You can visualize that way, or take it practically and apply some steps to avoid it or to get rid of those vices. Okay, so the next one, the next Nama, 25th Nama, one of my favorite shlokas. Sampatkari Samarudha Sindhura Vrajasevita Ashvarudhas, okay, Ashvarudha Dhishtitasva Koti Koti Bhirabrita. Who would like to chant the shloka?
Can Guruji? I can.
Thank you. Sujataji will just do the first once and then we'll do the full shloka. Sampatkari Samarudha Sin. Oh, sorry.
Sampatkari Samarudha Sindhura Vrajasevita.
Dhura. There is no dirgham there. Sujataji, we are not able to hear you.
Sorry, I think I'm having network issues. Sorry about that.
No.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Sampatkari Samarudha Sindhura Vrajasevita.
Ashvarudha Tishtita Koti Koti Bhiravrita.
Asvarudha Dhishtita. 'Asvarudha Dhishtitasva Koti Koti Bhiravruta. 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 ' Viravruta.
We'll do the full shloka once. Sampatkari samarudha siddhura vita ashvarudha dishtita swakoti koti bhiravrita.
Sampatkari Samaruda Sindhura Vraja Sevita Aswaruda Dhishtita Swakoti Koti Bhiravruta.
Names are individual, like one nama, and an important namas, because here we are about to start describing mother in her various forms. So Sampat Swarudha. So
Sriji, you're breaking up.
Yeah, you're breaking, Sriji. It's lagging.
Oh, I think, is it on my end? I was thinking like it is Sujataji's network. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was thinking that was me. Sorry about that.
It's me. Is it better now? I don't see any network alert on my screen. That's why I thought it might be Sujataji. So mother, oh, sorry, my window. Sampatkari is somebody who is mounted on an elephant, and Ashwarudha is mounted on a white horse. Okay, so those are the two forms of mother that we are going to describe now. Actually, yeah. Attended by herds of elephants conducted by Sampatkari. Sampatkari Samaruda Sindhura Prajasevita. Sindhura means elephants. That's why I actually corrected. Sindhura means the botu tilakam, and Sindhura without the dirgham for the is the means elephants. So I'll read the description of Sampatkari. Sampatkari is the name of a certain deity about whom the Swatantra Tantra says there is a certain vidya called, there is a Sampatkari vidya of unimaginable power. Thus, it is 3 syllabled, and I will, and they're going to explain it, so I'll ignore that. And this goddess is explained in Lalitopakhyanam as well as the mistress of the elephants belonging to Devi. The goddess named Sampatkari sprang from the elephant god of Supreme Lalita. She rode upon the elephant named Ranakolahala, or delighting in the war. Millions of finest elephants followed her. Sindhura means elephants. There are many kinds of elephants, Bhadra, Mandra, Mriga, etc. And we know the Ashtadigajas, they are also prayed during Sri Vidya. So all 8 directions is for each of the Ashtadigajas. And those are Sampatkari, Mother Sampatkari's elephants. Or the other one, the other meaning now, Sampatkari means fullness of a joyous state of mind, something to be achieved. And note the Puranic meaning and how you can visualize it and how you can apply it to yourself. So the fullness of a joyous state of mind. In that emotional state, she is attended by herds of elephants, aggregates of objects such as sound, etc. The objects of the senses are called elephants. So says the sages of old times. Somebody who has to control all of those elephants to maintain or to attain that fullness of joyous state of mind. So again comes back to the Mano Nigraham and Indriya Nigraham. And you would think like, why is there so much emphasis on it? Everything, like, if we have to attain that purity to be able to see Brahman, that is where it has to start. And Shankaracharya, even in Brahma Sutras or even Tattva Bodha, like, don't even go to Brahma Sutras, like the ultimate. The basic Tattva Bodha, he will say, start with Shamadama. And Patanjali says Yama Niyama. And then he goes into the asana and pranayama, pratyahara. So for him, it's the 5th step. But Shankaracharya says, if you are at a point of trying to attain Atman, the Brahman, Shama, Dama are the basics. Like, you just get to that point. So Sampatkari is somebody who can give us that. Okay, at this point, I'll conclude for the week, and then we will continue with a little bit more description about Sampatkari and then go into Ashwaruda and understand them in a little more detail. I do think sometimes like I'm maybe going slow on Lalita Sahasranamam compared to Vishnu Sahasranamam. But once we get into some namas, like, when we start going into Agnya Chakras and all of Rudra Granthi and Vishnu Granthi, this requires some description. And as soon as we go into Nitya Mukta, Nirvikara, Nishprapancha, those namas, they feel very easier namas comparatively, but they are the most difficult ones to understand. But either way, we'll be much faster once we get to the point of, like, from Bhavani, Bhavana Gamya till 40. And I would have said this sometimes as well. If you don't have time, not that I'm advocating for it, but if you don't have time to chant all 182 and a half shlokas of Lalita Sahasranamam, even if you chanted the first 40, you get the essence of most of it. But it is absolutely like recommended to do all the shlokas, because you're more of the practical, the chakras and everything, they come in the 98s and the 100s and till 113. And the final, like, mudras and everything, they come at the end, tail end, almost like 175, 176 are about mudras. But the first 40 are critically important namas, because this is where one has to start the practice. So with that note, if there are no other thoughts that anybody wants to share, we'll conclude with a Shanti Mantram.
Guruji, can you please share the literature for the benefit of everybody? You said for Bandasura and some other place, you said you would share something. Can you share it with us, please?
Yeah, I'll send the meditations at 44. You can visualize the Sri Chakra meditation. I won't call it Sri Nagara meditation. I won't call it Sri Chakra because I'm not going to provide the specific spots on Sri Chakra, but I'll provide the visualization of what Sri Nagaram is. And I'll also provide some additional details about Bhandasura will come. We'll be describing him a little more. And a lot of, like, how all the Arishad Vargas are given different names and Bhandasura's brothers and all of those details will come in the future. So I'll do one at a time.
Guruji, I think the Dhamma and Kshama, I was also thinking in the 16th chapter when the Lord is talking in the first paragraph, the first verse. I think it's an amazing thing. Thank you for prioritizing. I did not know that those are, because there's so many qualities, that's a good place to start with for novice people like me. I thought like that was a great point. Thank you for clarifying that.
Absolutely. And, I once sat down and looked for all the Daivi Sampat, and especially in the 16th chapter, Bhagavan describes the Daivi Sampat and Asuri Sampat, right? But he also describes quite a few qualities throughout, and they're strewn across in Gita. So I once had a homework just to go through all the shlokas and just identify what are those qualities that are expected from somebody who is looking for Brahman. I ended up with 64. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to monitor my activity, my day on a daily basis. I had tracking, and I'm not that crazy these days. I have to still do it. Not that I overcame all my vices, but just monitoring ourselves for each of those characteristics on when am I slipping. And one of my Guruji, Swami Paramarthananda, would say, funnily, like, jokingly, he would say, file your FIR. How frequently, or what is the frequency, intensity, and the recency of when you're slipping, when you're, getting anger, or when you're feeling jealous, like, all the Mada Matsarya, when you're feeling that ego. He would ask us to just make notes. And unless you monitor yourself, unless you measure where you are and where you want to go, it's very difficult for us to pass these because they're so subtle and they happen so quickly we won't even know. Okay.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you for sharing that.
Guruji, when you were talking about Sriman Nagara, that visualization, so as you're going through it, ultimately, like I was getting like the Sri Chakra thing, kind like you're going through that and you're reaching the center point.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, so that's where, like, when you have to visualize the Pancha Brahmasanam and in the Bindu, and this, like, this whole thing beyond, so the Sri Chakra, the what we call as the Chaturasram, that's where the ocean is, and the Chaturasram is where the island starts. So as you're crossing these levels, you're going through all of those gardens and all of those enclosures and all of those vartikas, and then you're going into the halls, and then you're going into the Chintamani Griham, and then you see the Pancha Brahmasanam in the Bindu.
So it is like manifestation and unmanifestation. The same concept comes there.
Same concept, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, we'll chant mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Sarvam Sri Paradevataarpanamastu. Thank you so much for your time. I had lots of fun. So we'll talk next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guru.
Dhanyavad.